Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Sustainable Tech Leader podcast. Today, I'm really excited. I'm joined by a fantastic guest by the name of Fay Niewiadomski. She's a leadership consultant, a strategic intervention coach, and author whose perspective has been shaped by building institutions, leading through major change, and working closely with senior leaders around the world. After helping to found a university and spending 17 years taking it from feasibility to full establishment, she stepped into a new chapter focused on leadership, trust, communication, and meaningful impact. She's also the author of Decisions That Matter: How to Rethink, Reimagine, and Reset Your Life. And she's currently writing on strategic leadership, communication, and the idea that wisdom is often found in the grey, which is really going to be an interesting conversation. So, welcome to the
Mhm.
show, Faye. Really happy to have you. Would you like to add anything to that intro?
Thank you, Mita. Just a few little things. I'm a Fulbright scholar, and I always forget that. And I am a parent and a grandparent, which I think is really important because I don't like to see people going into retirement. Because retirement to me means that you're giving up on life and learning and growth. And yeah, this year I celebrate my 80th birthday.
Fantastic. Congratulations, Faye.
And I
Inspiring.
want to encourage people to stay in there, not give up, and not assume that somehow life ends at a certain point that somebody else chose for you.
Yeah, no, that's such an amazing point, Faye. And actually, one of the things that we deeply connected on, I think I was explaining to you that my vision for this period has come from Ikigai, the Japanese concept that there is no retirement. And actually, if you do something you love, you can carry on doing it forever. And you're an example of that, Faye.
Absolutely, because it's not work.
No.
It's absolutely contributing to all those around you, hopefully making things a little bit better
Yeah.
within your capacity.
Amazing, Faith. I'm really excited for this conversation today. And my first area I'd love to explore with you is that crossroads moment that you reached. So you've had a significant career journey already. Was there a defining moment when you knew you wanted to step away from the path you were on and rethink what came next?
Absolutely. And that's a moment in time that I will never be able to erase from my memory. I lived through a 15-year civil war. And what civil war means is that you have people running in the yard with machine guns, you have bullets hitting the wall of your home, you have bombs flying over, you're grabbing your kids out of their cribs because they were still very young and running into a safe basement. Living that kind of a life is hard to imagine because it's hard to imagine anything that we haven't experienced.
Yeah.
But having gone through that and having a family life which was full of challenge, I had sick parents I was taking care of. My husband was an alcoholic, was really hard to live with. And I was at that time I had a deanship and I was running a university which I had contributed as one of the main founders.
Wow.
And you get up and you live as if life is normal. It's like you're living on a movie set.
Mm,
It seems that surreal.
mm,
One morning, sent my children off to school. And in those days, you never knew whether you were going to get a call to say, come and get them, or if they would even come back
mm.
home.
Gosh.
So I went to my office as usual. There'd been a particularly heavy night of bombing. And instead of an office, I found wreckage. My office was bombed. Everything I had built for 17 years was burnt.
Gosh.
And there was nothing that could be salvaged.
Mm,
And when you reach a moment like that, because you have been on a path that says, I'm building a university, I'm going to be in academia, this is where I'm going, and this is my life, and I have to tolerate this difficult personal life. Somehow, when everything is shattered, all the boundaries are broken, and there is nothing there for you to hold on to that you can say there is certainty or there's predictability. It's all swept away in a moment.
yeah.
And I think that is when we have to reach really deep down into our soul and ask, who am I? When all of these things that I have theoretically been building on, title and prestige and presence and all of that, when that's all gone,
Yeah.
is it a limitation or is it a liberation?
Mm, mm,
And I chose to take the path of liberation and say, now that it's shattered, why don't I step out of that limitation, step out of that mental, psychological prison and rebuild? And that's what I did. I submitted a resignation for a deanship. And
gosh,
of course, nobody believed that. They thought I was fired. And I had to deal with all the contention of, yeah, but why did you leave such a position? Because people can't imagine something they haven't experienced.
of course.
So that was one. The second thing I did was I said, I think education is a place where you make a difference because you're going to shape the way another generation thinks. And so I thought, I have the credibility and the background to be a consultant in that field. So
Mm,
I started a business at first in educational consultancy. I separated from my husband because I had enough. I have 4 children, 2 boys and 2 girls, and I had responsibilities to them. And so I had to choose my battles, and I chose my battles and defined the boundaries within which I felt I could succeed.
mm,
Because at times like this, contrary to what people imagine, failure is not something that you can entertain because failure means you're gone.
mm, mm. Wow.
You know, you have to be alert, you have to be astute, you have to be looking around you at where danger is coming from, and you have people to protect.
Yeah.
So failure is not even a consideration.
Yeah. Yeah. Faye.
So that is when, yeah, but that was a turning point in my life, the major one.
If there's going to be any turning point, Faye, that sounds like a really significant moment, both personally, environmentally, country wise, all of it. And for you to take a path of almost exploration is absolutely phenomenal. Wow. Yeah. And I guess a lot of your learning, your experiences based on real deep knowing of who you really are and what you really want. Wow. And that reinvention is not even mid-career. I think you've reached the peak of your career and you've decided to
Yes.
do something different.
I could have had a job for life if
Yeah,
I wanted to,
yeah,
but I didn't.
no, no. And so you spoke so powerfully about that response, and that's honestly something that is already giving me goosebumps as I listen to you. And so when people are in those mid-careers and they're questioning their purpose, their identity, and their second half of their life, what do you think triggers that reflection for so many other leaders? Your situation was profound, but as you now start to work with others, what kind of triggers are you seeing?
I think when people recognize that they don't know who they are, that concept of identity is underexplored and undervalued because identity is something that we fight for. It's something that we would die for.
Mm,
It's the most constant thing that keeps us alive, knowing who we are, what we represent, where we come from, what civilization and history and literature and art has come before us that produced us as the person we are today.
yeah.
And that's something worth defending. When people realize that they're living a life that is hollow, they go to work, they do something they're not convinced of, they tick the boxes, and probably the most persistent and aggravating source of daily stress is the cognitive dissonance that you experience when you look at all the wonderful slogans and values and visions and missions written on walls and spoken in boardrooms, and you realize none of it is translated into your experience of everyday life. None of it is translated into your career. None of it is translated into your job.
Mm,
And you ask, what is this all for? And as life becomes more difficult and more challenging, and you have to pay to sustain what it is that you have,
Yeah.
the question arises, is it worth it?
Mm,
And what's worth it to preserve my identity and my integrity and living a life that matters? And my book is written for people who ask those questions,
mm,
who reach the turning point where they say, so how do I get out of this
mm,
mental prison? Because it's a mental prison built on beliefs, built on values, built on prescriptions that we have accepted without ever questioning them.
mm,
Especially as women, we're taught to be good little girls. We're told fairy tales that are absolutely full of myths that have nothing to do with the reality of success.
mm,
Be quiet, behave yourself, be polite, don't be aggressive.
mm.
You never hear the voices of those little girls in the fairy tales. They have no voice.
No.
And I think claiming our voice and claiming who we can be and believing in our own potential is a journey that we're still on.
Yeah.
It's not a reaction of being aggressive and pushing back against something. No, it's a much gentler awakening and realization of who I could be,
Mm,
who I could influence. What could my life be if I owned it?
mm.
And I wasn't following a prescription
Yeah.
set by somebody else. And I think that's when you live a long life, and longevity has become something that is quite common.
Mm,
Birth rates are down all over the world. People are living to 100 more and more.
yeah.
So, what do you do with that other half of your life?
Mm,
Are you going to go into retirement and go on those holiday tours with groups of people where you're being herded back and forth into different monuments and museums? No, absolutely not.
that's amazing. But it's so
And I
funny.
think that's defining. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, no, that what you're saying sounds profound, but oftentimes, and I think you said you were in this place yourself, you have children, you have responsibility, you have mouths to feed, you have jobs to do, and actually everything from education and going into the world of work puts you on this treadmill. And you're saying actually you're living almost an illusion, right? Which is a
Yeah.
separation from who you really are. So, from your experience, if you get really practical, what's the first step? Like, how do you start to even get to that identity and ask some of those questions? What are some of the techniques that you use with your?
I think it's ironic, but there are no techniques and no plans.
Okay, interesting.
When you get thrown into reality
Yes, yeah.
and you have to find ways to survive and live, that defines who you become. Because it's odd, but getting into your car and driving through pretty dangerous terrain and going from one district to the next, for example,
Yeah.
and you recognize you can actually do it. Other people would consider that you were insane to do something like that. But doing it and coming out on the other side and realizing that you can speak to people who others are hesitant to even approach,
Mm,
and you succeed. These are defining moments of experience.
yeah.
And I think those begin to illuminate who you are because you realize other people aren't doing this.
No.
I am,
Yeah.
and it's working,
Yeah.
and it's okay. So I wouldn't even give people any kind of a recipe or a formula.
Mm-hmm.
It's discovering as you do and getting feedback from people who look at you and they have nothing to gain by complimenting you.
Mm,
They're not your direct reports, they're not your boss. They're people who have zero to gain from you, and they say, wow, we're really glad that you're doing this. This has been very helpful to us. That begins to shape who you are. It's there. It's not as if you're suddenly becoming somebody different, but that dormant core begins to take a life of its own when you see that you're getting feedback from the environment, that you are having an impact, that you're making a difference. One experience that drove that home to me is when the leading university in the country very well known. I won't name it, but they told the schools that I was consulting for that if they didn't stop working with me, they would restrict their acceptance of their graduates.
Oh, wow.
Yes. And why was that? What I did was something that people would consider bold. The way teaching was done was still rote learning.
Mm,
So I decided teachers needed to have a different approach. And how was I going to get that message to them? I went to the schools, got an agreement from the principal that they wanted to have this transformational teaching method. And I took the teachers into the classrooms where they were teaching students. I had them sit on the benches and the seats where the students were.
okay.
And at the time, the walls were gray.
Okay.
And I taught them with the same awful approach that they were using to teach the students
Ah,
for long enough for them to feel the discomfort. And then I changed that. And I took on a completely different approach, rearranged the room, brought in very simple things that didn't cost a fortune to make the classroom come alive, and introduced experiential learning. And I won't go into all the techniques, but that was transformational for them because they experienced it. And you recognize that, wow, you can impact change when people's experiences are personal.
yes.
And that is when I went ahead and did a PhD in change management, because that meant something, and transitioned into leadership because
Ah,
guess what? The decision makers in business are the ones deciding what happens next, not the schools and not the universities and the teachers.
mm.
It's the real world where money is made and lost, and leaders make decisions that impact people's lives for better or for worse.
Absolutely, which is the biggest topic here, which is the leadership beyond that performance. And especially for this audience, they're very much leaders, technology leaders at the top of organizations. And when you think about the responsibility that they hold and some of the things that you've described, which is who are you really as you're as you're doing any role, as you're in your environment. And the idea that really stood out for me was how you challenge that performative leadership. Faye, how do you define real leadership, and how can people tell when they're just performing just for being successful, getting the title, going up the corporate ladder, rather than living that leadership role?
My definition of leadership is a chemistry that combines three things: competence, and I put competence first, and I will explain why. The second is courage,
Hmm.
and the third is compassion.
Okay.
The reason I put competence first is I don't believe, as a leader, whether you are in technology or in business or in a field of science or healthcare, if you are not competent, you do not earn the respect of your people because they know you're not competent. And the other danger is that you don't hire competent people because you feel threatened by them.
Yeah.
And I think competence is number one. It's the first pillar because that means, and competence is not a constant.
No.
You need to keep acquiring knowledge and experience and capability and keeping abreast of what's going on. And if you don't, you become obsolete.
Mm,
So competence is a journey that doesn't stop. Now, you can be competent and still fail as a leader if you lack courage,
mm,
because that's taking you into a domain of choice.
yeah.
You know the right thing, you know what should be done, but you don't do it. You acquiesce. You don't want to rock the boat. Your values and your priorities put your own certainty and personal survival above other things. And so you can be competent and be a bad leader.
Mm,
But to be competent and courageous means that you need to learn how to negotiate, how to influence
mm,
without aggression,
mm,
with intelligence, with surgical precision in the questions you ask people so that they come to recognize things that you can't tell them directly to their face.
Mm.
Things like, when is the last time you picked up a new skill?
Yeah.
And just let that sit with them. But those two are very powerful. And if you have courage, you can use it for good and you can use it for manipulation.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because the rarest species of human being is the intelligent and ethical together.
Yeah. Yeah.
So the third piece in my leadership definition is compassion. Compassion for yourself, recognizing that you are human, that you are vulnerable, and there are things which you may not want to be living with as regrets.
Mm. Mm.
And you offer that kindness and compassion to other people. It doesn't mean that you're going to be soft and sympathetic, which is what people think compassion is. Compassion is accountability,
Mm.
holding yourself to the highest possible standard, being true to your identity,
Mm.
being kind to yourself when you make mistakes and reflecting on that and thinking, how can I learn from that? What can I do better next time?
Mm.
And extending that understanding and that kindness to other people,
Yeah.
which means you now build a very cohesive leadership team where people feel secure enough to speak to you as a human being, not to tell you lies, not to filter information, not to tell you what you want to hear, because then your decisions are flawed,
Mm.
because they're not based on the things you need to know.
Absolutely.
And if anybody has any doubt as to the danger of that, they should maybe look around at what's happening globally.
Yes, absolutely. Those three kind of encompass so much, those three categories, all the way from decision making, all the way to kind of delegation and trusting those around you as well. And I guess, Faye, when you think about those three core components of leadership, how much does a company culture and the size of the organization influence those three components?
Deeply, because every company, whether they have stated it openly or not, has a definition of leadership, has a set of goals and principles that they have transmitted to their staff.
Yeah.
So I'll give you some practical examples. If all that matters is the bottom line, that's all that's going to matter.
Yeah.
And I can give you cases and name companies where people have compromised ethics, people have done illegal things to have the bottom line and the profit look good when it's not, because that is what they were rewarded for.
Yeah.
When we talk about teamwork, but we reward individuals, you
Hmm.
will never have teamwork. You will have backstabbing and blame. That's the
Yeah.
culture that will emerge. What is culture? Culture is a set of beliefs and values and the emergent behaviors that come out of those beliefs and values. Let's not sugarcoat it and call it anything other than what it is. It's not your values, it's not your mission statement, it's not what you have written on the wall. It's the behavior that people experience every day.
Mm-hmm.
And because human survival
Hmm.
is built into each of us, and selfishness is part of that survival package that we come with so we can keep ourselves and our loved ones alive,
Mm.
people will go to the path of least resistance,
Yeah.
which is short term benefit.
Yeah.
They're not going to look far ahead at consequences.
No.
There are some tribes, some Native American tribes, which have a rule called the seventh generation rule.
Hmm.
And the seventh generation rule is where they try to look at consequences far beyond their own lifetime
Mm.
and consider the impacts. Look at what's happening with climate change. Now you have air conditioner sales going through the roof.
Absolutely.
Why? Because we couldn't anticipate consequences long enough, far enough into the future
Yeah.
to understand that actions today reverberate long into the future, long after we're gone.
Yeah.
We don't care. And that's what creates the corporate culture. I want to buy that penthouse. I want the Porsche. I want to have the kind of lifestyle
Mm.
that I am told is the secret of success and happiness.
Mm. And that's that.
And yet, when you get there and it's not what it was all cracked up to be.
Where the needs could become bigger. So after the Porsche becomes two or three Porsches or the bigger penthouse, so
Yes,
that continuous need and instant gratification is,
absolutely.
yeah, is quite harsh.
I don't know if you've ever seen the research of that nurse that I've forgotten her name, maybe her family name was Barnes, but she spoke to a lot. She treated people in terminal cases where they were about to die.
Mhm.
And the thing that she said was most commonly repeated over and over on the deathbed was the regrets. Dying with regret. I wish I hadn't. They don't know their children, they don't know their family.
Mm.
They die alone, even if their children and grandchildren are physically present. There's no connection, there's
Mm.
no link.
Yeah, which is the heart of everything that you're saying, which is really connect with your true self. And the sooner you do that, the more fulfilling and actually authentic your life is as you're living it, as opposed to getting right to the end.
Yes.
So, Faye, I have a question coming back to leadership. How do you think leaders, and I did ask you, but I'll ask you again, how do you think leaders can start doing that inner work in a more honest and practical way?
The Odyssey. I am delighted that it's now a film that's up for Academy Awards and that people have gone back to the Iliad and gone back to Homer and are reading the Odyssey and discovering for the first time what it means to go through a journey. My leadership program, The Four Journeys of a Leader, begins with part one, my personal Odyssey, taking a deep dive into who you are. What are your values? What are your basic human needs? What are your deeply held beliefs? What are your unconscious rules that you have boxed yourself in with? How are they holding you back
Mm.
from daring to do what you desire to do? We have this ideal self we would like to be, but we don't dare
Mm.
step out of the mundane, everyday routine of who we are. Who do you think you are? No,
Mm.
you have that role model. You can never become that role model.
Mm.
Just be realistic. And be realistic is the kiss of death.
Yeah.
So the personal odyssey is really discovering how far you can push yourself. What boundaries haven't you tried out? What limitations have you not broken out of and overstepped? And recognize that you're okay, you're still safe when you get out
Mm.
of those limitations. So the personal odyssey is where they start discovering truly who they are through any technique and method
Mm.
that they're willing to be adventurous enough to explore. And Odyssey is a beautiful metaphor for that whole journey. Odysseus was a strong, powerful leader revered by his people.
Mm.
And yet he went through all those challenges, the sirens and the rocks and the wars,
Yeah.
his 10-year journey discovering what a true warrior he was and
Amazing.
what his real strength was. And it's metaphorical. I'm not suggesting that people should go
No,
on a 10-year battle
no. Unless they want to, of course.
journey, but the inner discovery
Yeah.
of who you are and what artificial boundaries and limitations have you placed on yourself. Get rid of your own personal lies that you've told yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. And that requires a lot of courage, I imagine, and yeah, willingness to go that step deeper.
Yeah, yes,
Yeah,
yes. And once they've gone there,
yeah,
then they can be more open to other people because they're secure in their inner strength. They're not pretending, they're not looking for a role, they know their role.
yes, absolutely. So, Faye, absolutely love this conversation. My last question for you is something profound that you said a few moments ago, which is thinking about the impact that you leave beyond your lifetime and actually thinking about the next generation and beyond that. So, when you think about some of the work that you've done, some of the writing that you've done, what feels most important to you right now about the ideas you want to leave behind and the impact you want to have with the work that you're currently doing?
I'm glad you asked me that question because I believe our legacy are the decisions we have made. And the thing that I believe most is that people need to discover that they have the key.
Mm,
They are the only ones who own the key to unlock the gates of the mental prison that they are locked in because of their education, because of their gender, because of their life experience or education or anything that they have been programmed with,
mm,
that we have the key to unlock it.
yeah.
And it just takes the courage for us to do that. And for me, the greatest compliment I've ever got from anybody is when they say to me, "You have changed my life because you helped me to believe in myself, to know that I could do it."
Mm,
And there is no greater reward than that, because that means that you haven't changed the person. You have enabled them, you have given them the tools to recognize that they have the key. And by asking them the questions, by pushing them, challenging them, not doing what AI does, which is confirmation bias and sycophancy and telling people that you know what they want to hear. You're amazing, you're wonderful. No, sometimes saying the hard things,
yeah.
having the courage to look them in the eye and saying, "What you just told me, I don't buy.
Mm,
Think again. I want a different answer. Go deeper."
yeah.
And they recognize that they have untested potential and they have the key to unlock the mental prison, step out and realize who they can be, who they desire to be.
Absolutely. Yeah, and you did touch earlier on getting feedback for no reason other than getting feedback, not because they're your
Yes.
manager, not because they're your boss, but actually genuine kind of feedback on,
Yes.
yeah, absolutely, Faye.
People just making a throwaway remark that you don't think much of at the time, but it sort of sticks in your mind. And then you go back and say, "Why did they say that to me? What
Mm,
did they actually mean by that?"
yeah,
And then you realize that they have nothing to gain and no reason to tell you that other than that's how you look to them.
yeah, absolutely, Faye. Wow, you are a lady with so much deep knowledge, and I'm sure many other stories, Faye. I've absolutely enjoyed this discussion. Are there any other final words that you'd like to impart on our audience?
I would love for people to learn more about decision making because that's their legacy.
Yeah.
The legacy you leave is the quality of your decisions. It doesn't matter how high you rise, how great your title is. Even if you're the most powerful person on earth, people may comply because they fear you. But your legacy is going to be the impact of the decisions you made while you were alive. And that is not necessarily going to be complimentary.
Mm,
So think carefully about the decisions you make, about the legacy you will leave as a result of those decisions. And it doesn't matter which ghostwriter writes your biography, the
yeah,
scars have been made.
amazing. Amazing, powerful words there, Faye. Thank you so much. And thank you for being on the podcast and sharing so openly about all of your journey so far. Really appreciate it, Faye.
Thank you, Mita. You're a powerful interviewer. You have a wonderful open smile that encourages the openness. So
Oh,
thank you.